Hello and welcome to a brand new episode. Today we're talking all about book covers, specifically how to figure out what kind of book cover you need, what it needs to look like, and if you so choose, how to do one yourself. So let's jump in. Now, I know everyone says you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but let's face it, it's complete bollocks. It's one of the most important things that you can get right when it comes to selling your books and your catalogue, because your book cover is going to be the number one reason why somebody clicks on your thumbnail and actually goes to check out your book page on Amazon or the other ebook store. So you may have the greatest story ever written, you may have the perfect product description, you may have tons of reviews, but if your cover is terrible, then nobody is going to click on it in the first place. Now, we ran some experiments using some Amazon ads, over 20 million plus impressions, to see what works with covers, and we compared this cover with this cover, and then finally this cover, and we found that cover number 3 improved the click-through rate, or the percentage of people who saw the book and then clicked on it to go check it out, by more than 100%. So getting this right can be absolutely crucial. Now, in my opinion, those 3 covers all look fantastic, and cover number 1 was in fact the original one, which I actually prefer. Now, cover number 3, the difference there is because it really does conform with genre tropes or genre expectations more than the other ones did, which led to a much higher click-through rate. And, fun story, cover number 3, I actually made myself. Now, I made it in Photoshop, and I wanted to spend some time today looking at an alternative that you can use to create some great looking book covers that isn't going to cost you years worth of experimenting and hundreds of dollars of subscription fees. So we're going to be covering that as well. So how to figure out what your cover needs to look like, some of the common themes and design elements that go into it, and then I'm going to share with you my new favourite design tool to help you get your book cover designed DIY for free. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. But before we jump into all that, for those of you who have been following my channel, you might remember that we've recently moved house, and then of course the world ended and nothing got done, but things are coming along quite nicely. So as you can see from behind me, I basically just put a yellow sofa in my living room, and then I can pretend that I have much better design skills than I really do. So the way that we've been coping with things in the new house is, yes, we could have done some decorating or some cleaning, we could have replaced some kitchen cupboards, but no, we decided to basically start our own farmyard with 14 ducks, several chickens, horses, and dogs. So before we jump into any of the fun stuff we talked about today, we've got a few jobs to do. So come on outside and I will give you a quick tour.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Tree.
Right, with that out of the way, we've collected the eggs and the apples, and as you can tell, we are basically living a self-sufficient lifestyle here. And yes, there are lots of dishes you can make with just eggs and apple.
Haha, lasagna.
So with all the... Quiet dog. So with all the animals and children fed, we can jump down to the nitty-gritty of today's session, which is looking at exactly how to figure out what your cover needs to look like. And this is going to vary by genre, and then I'll show you my favorite tool for getting it all designed DIY completely free. So let's jump on over to the computer.
Okay, so the first thing we need to do is figure out what our cover needs to look like. And the best way of doing this is, of course, to go and research it. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to use romance as an example, but whether you're writing in romance or thrillers or crime or historical fiction or erotica or fantasy or science fiction, doesn't matter. This is the same process that you're going to want to follow. So the first thing we're going to do is find your category on Amazon and have a look at some of the covers that are in there. So for the sake of romance, what I would recommend not doing is looking at romance in general. So this is romance as a category, which is fairly broad, and as you can see, there's lots of kind of different styles going on here, from things that really don't look like romance, like number 1 and number 5. And 5 in particular, I don't think is a romance. I'm not sure how it got in there, but there's lots of variety here. So this can be a little bit confusing because it's a bit of a jumble. So we want to try and dig down into the categories and subcategories as much as possible. So if we look at, for example, time travel romance, the covers look a lot different. We've got some historical looking people. We've got a different kind of font. We've got that sort of serif, old fashioned font going on. If we look into science fiction, romance, it's different again. We will see this theme of naked man chest coming up quite a lot, but as you can see, very, very different in general. I'm going to click on contemporary for the sake of this example. And as you can see, there's a few different styles in here, but there are some common themes that you can pick out. Now, I'd recommend sort of discarding the stuff that's very obviously published by a traditional publisher. Things like books 1 to 4 here are using sort of very traditional publisher-y style covers. So this doesn't really apply to us because traditional publishers, they can get their books into bookstores, into the front windows, they can get press coverage, they can get all this stuff with a big sales team behind them. What works for them isn't necessarily going to be the same thing that works for you. So bear that in mind. These covers are very cool, cover sort of 1 to 4, very different, very interesting. Jojo Moyes at number 7 there. But that's not the kind of thing you want to go for as an indie. You want to go for something that screams romance, or contemporary romance in this case. Whatever your genre might be, it needs to scream it, because it's not enough just to have a nice cover. It has to fulfill genre expectations as well. So a quick look through this category, looking at the colors, we're getting lots of yellows, pinks and blues and variations thereof. So orange is coming in as well. There's lots of there's a hunky man on the cover, or there might be a couple on the cover. In general, they're facing the camera. A lot of the font work is using a sort of a script font, which looks really, really cool as well. So you're not getting the sort of the old-fashioned historical fonts that you have in the other one. So pay attention to the type of font that's going on as well. So we'll skip through to the next 50 in here too. And again, we're getting the same colors, blues and oranges. We're getting that script font. We're getting people facing the cover either as a couple or hunky man by himself. So that's the kind of thing that we're going to go for. So that's with our sort of vague cover brief in place. Now what we want to do is go and put something together, a little mock-up that maybe we can tweak to get us started with this. So this is where I'm going to introduce you to my new favorite design tool, which is Bookbrush, which is a fantastic alternative to something like Photoshop, which requires a long time to learn and a fair amount of money to get it right, and alternatives like Canva, which are sort of aimed at general graphic design, whereas this is a lot more aimed at authors. So you can do things like create covers, create 3D mock-ups of books and box sets, and do social media graphics, that kind of thing. So it's quite specialized, and it is quite fun. And you can register for free. You don't have to pay anything to play around with it. If you do want to download the covers or the artwork, then you do have to pick one of their paid plans, but there is a 30-day guarantee. So if you only want to use it that one time, you can take advantage of that. Although for the sake of the pricing, which is very, very low, it might be worth taking on a subscription if you have lots to do. But for today, I'm going to show you the cover creator. So let's dive straight into that. So let's head on over to Tools and Cover Creator. Now, at this point, it's going to ask you to choose what kind of book you're going for here. So we're going to go with ebook for now, although it does do print and audio too. There's different resolutions and sizes here, so I'm just going to go with the Kindle one. Now, you can start completely from scratch here, but honestly, if you have the graphic design skills to do that, you're much better off using something like Photoshop, because you have a lot more control over the image, and you can do fancy things like layering and compositing and adding all sorts of cool effects. But for the absolute beginner, or for someone who doesn't really have those design skills, the best thing to do is to start off with a template. So we're going to go to Community Templates, and we're going to pick one that we like the look of. So if we're doing romance, we can choose the genre in here. Click on romance, and just choose a template that you like the look of. So we can start off with I'll choose the top one here. And here we go. So one of the most important things to bear in mind with designing a cover is the most sort of striking thing is going to be the main image, of course, but then the font work as well. So I've seen a lot of authors find a fantastic image to use as their cover, but the font work is not the best. So that's kind of a big giveaway that something's been done quite badly, is if it's got a bad font. So I'm just going to choose this one for now. This is a bit cleaner, I think. So we can play with the font work in a minute. But the first thing we want to do is change that background image, because this one is romance focus, got that couple in there, but I don't really like that color overlay, so I want to get rid of it. I slightly prefer the layout in here, with the way they've got the center character is pulling you in, and the impact of the text is quite cool. But, either way, you could use either of these templates or any other template, because you can just change it. So I'll stick with this one for now. But the first thing I want to do is change out that background image and make it something a little bit better. So great resource for this, for free, royalty-free images, is a place called unsplash.com. Which has images that are free for you to use for commercial or for non-commercial use, and it's absolutely brilliant. So limited number of photos, and if you do pick something, you may end up seeing other people using the same thing, which is a downside of this. But if you do want to pay for an image that might be slightly better quality, or that you might like better, or that is going to be less likely to turn up everywhere, you can try one of the paid stock footage sites like Shutterstock is a good one. But for now, we're going to go with kind of the idea of the kissing couple. I think we'll stick with that. So let's go for kissing couple in here. We've got lots to choose from. So I'm going to go with these guys here, having their wedding day near the sea. So with Unsplash, you can click on it to get the full resolution, and then you can download it in whichever size you want. So tip here is get the highest resolution you possibly can, which is the original size, and then you can always shrink it down later. So what we're going to do is, I've already downloaded this earlier, and I'm going to upload it into this cover design here. So what we're going to do is go over to background, and I'm going to upload that image into my book. So let's have a look for that here. Here we are. Here it comes. Fantastic. So we're going to have to resize it slightly because it doesn't quite fit, and I want the couple to be slightly more front and center. Fantastic. So now let's move the font work down so you can actually see it. So it's not going to be called Forest of the Silence of the Forest, because that's not very romantic, is it? But this just gives you an idea of the layout. So with the title down there and the author name up at the top, that makes a lot more sense. So we'll change the author name to R.O. Mance, very famous author. And then we can play with the font work as well. So if we have a look in here, we can change the size, we can change the transparency, all sorts of stuff. So I'm going to change the size to start off with. Let's see if we can fit it all on one line. Should be quite helpful. There we go. Line spacing and letter spacing, we can squish it up a little bit there as well. Bring it together and try and get it to fill the line. There we go. So that looks a little bit better already. Now for Silence of the Forest, okay, that's not a great title. So we need to come up with a title that's better. So let's just get rid of these ones here. We don't need these ones, so they can go. Don't need you, and we don't need you for now. So we're just going to go with this one. We'll come up with a title. So let's go for, well, they're getting married on the rocks. So we'll call it On the Rocks. There we go, which is a bit of a play on words, so we like that one, don't we? Now we need to choose a font. So let's see if we can find something that's script. So we saw earlier from the examples on Amazon, lots of script being used. So it's a matter of finding the right one. So that's not quite right. Don't like that one very much. Let's try a different one. Till we find something we like. Let's see. Rock salt. That's a nice one. Right, let's drop the size down so we can actually see it. on the rocks. Very cool. Letter spacing. Make it a bit squished. Line height till it looks right on here. And there we go. So we go 110. Let's see if that fits. Fantastic. Now I want to play with the colors a little bit because we saw there was lots of oranges and blues and yellows. So we've got a little bit of orange in here, but let's play with the color of this a little bit. So let's go with orange so we can actually see it. And then we can play with the gradient as well. So we can add a second color to bring it a bit more visual appeal. So maybe a red in there, which is quite nice. Yeah, there we go. So that's quite cool. That stands out nicely. Our romance at the top here. What we can do is we can add a bit of text shadow to make that stand out. And we can actually make this, we can make this white if we want. Let's see how that goes. That's quite nice. Text shadow we can bring in so it really stands out, almost like it's popping off the page. There we go. We can even add in a little bit extra as well. So we can add a text box and we can drag it to where we want it to be. And we could go in here, we could go, for example, add in a few bits and pieces. So we go USA Today, best-selling author. And then again, we can bring that down in size. Fantastic. Choose a different font. So they were using Poppin. I think it was called Poppin. Let's use Poppin. There we are. Let's get it all on one line, though, shall we? There we are. So that's quite nice. So there we can see that quite clearly. We can play around with the colors as well. So we might want to go with something that's not white. We might want to go with a bright pink, which is quite cool as well. Gradient option, we can go with a slightly different pink, darker pink maybe, and just have a play around really. But generally, I'm quite happy with that one. Now, this isn't going to be as good as a professional designer, of course, but it's pretty much good enough, especially if you're going to use it for something like a reader magnet, or it's a standalone, or this is your first book, and you don't have the budget to go out and spend $500 or $1,000 on a professional cover design. This is a nice way to get the ball rolling, and in my humble opinion, that doesn't look too bad at all. It's kind of picking up on the major tropes of the covers. We've got the couple, you can see their faces, you've got the orange, you've got the blue, you've got the pink, and it does scream romance. Now, I'd probably go back in and fiddle with it a little bit more, but generally, I'm quite happy with that. So, tweaks aside, once you're happy with it, you can click on download and choose the format you want. So you want to download it as a PNG or PNG file, which retains the best image quality. And then when you're ready to upload it into Amazon and the other ebook stores, it will look the best it can be. And for any of you who do know how to use Photoshop, you could then take this and you could do some compositing in Photoshop if you really want to. But really the point of something like Bookbrush is to allow someone who doesn't have those techno skills to be able to do something quite easily. So by using templates and by using what we've learned by researching the covers in our categories, we can create something really rather good very, very quickly. So if you don't have the budget to get someone else to do it for you, or to buy pre-made covers, or you've got a bunch of covers that you want to do yourself, or you just want to have a crack at this, Bookbrush is a great place to get started. So I'm very, very impressed. And that's my whirlwind tour of Bookbrush. There's a load of other features in here, like creating social media graphics, ad graphics, 3D versions of your books to use on your website, or if you're doing a box set, you can do the audio version, you can do the print version, and it all makes it really, really easy. So if you want to give it a go, I'll put a link underneath this video and go check it out.
So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you're interested in checking out Bookbrush, I've left a link underneath this video, along with a link to a full-blown workshop where I go through this and a lot of other things in a ton more detail to help you get more people checking out your books and buying them, more people joining your email list, leaving reviews, and all that lovely stuff. It's all about how to go from $0 to $1,000 a month or more with self-publishing. It's a completely free workshop, and it is linked underneath. And if you'd like to get notified when my next videos come out, just hit the subscribe button underneath this video, hit that little notification bell, and YouTube will send you a message when the next video is out. And if you'd like to tell YouTube the kind of videos you enjoy, if you'd like to see more just like this, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and then YouTube will know exactly what it is you're looking for. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's session, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.
don't run away.